No, it says what again, Martha? Read the Mark ending again.
I've lost it.
I'm sorry, Mark.
For they had not gained any insight from the incident of the loaves, but their hearts were hardened.
They didn't gain any insight, and their hearts were hardened. How do we get to these two very different endings to this experience?
Well, they didn't get insight from the loaves, so after this other experience, though, their hearts were more open, maybe.
Yeah, I think
It says from the loaves.
I think Mark and Matthew are coming at the experience from two different perspectives. One, again, this is just me. One is, I think, what Jeff is saying. In Mark's gospel, Mark's making the point, we still don't quite get who Jesus is. We still don't fully understand that. But in Matthew's gospel, where they fall and worship him and say he's the Son of God, I think he's showing that there's some growth now in their faith. They recognize when Jesus said, I am, being Jews, they recognize who he says he is, and they worship him. So I think, again, only really after the resurrection do they totally get who Jesus is. They're still, and I think Mark's kind of pointing out, even though we said this, we still don't quite understand it. And Matthew, I don't know if the word is generous, but he's being more generous to the apostles, saying, hey, we're starting to get this. So we worshiped him and called him the Son of God. Okay, so John 6:21 says, they were willing to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land to which they were going. That's how John concludes his account of this experience. So many times the only miracle that's noted in this experience is that of Jesus walking on the water. But there are really multiple miracles in these accounts. What are some of the other miracles that are recorded in these verses? Jesus calmed the storm. That's certainly a miracle. This is the second time that we hear of Jesus calming a storm. What else? No other miracles?
You're talking about just today's scriptures?
Just in today's scriptures.
Well, the boat saved.
What's that?
That's what they just getting them into the boat after the previous thing.
Got them into the boat. What's the miracle of getting Jesus into the boat?
Well, because of what that happened to them before with the demons. So maybe they thought, I ain't so sure about getting in this boat again.
Yeah. 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 Well, do you think it was a miracle that, to Jill's point, getting him in the boat, that the apostles overcame their fear? They thought he was a ghost. They overcome their fear, and they call him in the boat. I think that's kind of a miracle. They overcame their great fear. They're frightened, amazingly frightened, or I don't remember the exact phrase. What else? He saved Peter. What did he save Peter from? Drowning, but he was walking on the water, so there's a miracle, Peter walking on the water to begin with. And then he saves him. And then there in that John chapter 6, verse 21, it says, and immediately the boat was at the land to which they were going. So here they've been rowing for 9 hours, as such, we think, something like 9 hours, and all of a sudden, whammo, bammo, they're at the other shore. So I think that was a miracle. Jesus propels them miraculously, immediately to the shore. Okay, so what are the takeaways from the lesson today, from today's study? Can't walk on water if you don't get out of the boat. Exactly right, Mary. You can't walk on water unless you get out of the boat. So we have to have faith to get out of the boat. And the question is, do we have the faith to get out of the boat? Faith is the opposite of fear. Faith overcomes fear. What's the corollary to that? If you don't first get in the boat, as the disciples did, then there's no way to get out of the boat. So you have to first get into the boat to have the faith to get into the boat in order to get out of the boat. So the question is, are you in Jesus' boat? Okay. What else? Don't take your eyes off of Jesus. When going through a storm, keep your focus on Jesus. Keep your focus on the solution. Jesus is the solution, and don't focus on the problem. The problem in this case being the storm on the Sea of Galilee. Focus on the solution, not on the problem. We've said it, look up, not around. Okay, what else?
He's really not a miracle that he walked on water. He created water.
Jeff says expand our view of God, in that the miracle wasn't that he walked on water. We should expect that because God created the water. Jesus created the water. Jesus created all things. Good. Yeah, that's neat.
He's there. He's not just some huge thing out there that created everything that we can't come to and can't reach.
Yeah. I'm going to summarize all Jill said here. Said that we can have a personal relationship with Jesus. All right, anything else? Very good, Jill.
We had to decide if we're going to let faith or fear rule our life.
Tanya says we got to decide if we're going to... Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
We would miss out on so much if we allowed fear to rule us and not had faith.
Yeah. Tanya says we got to decide if we're going to let faith or fear rule our lives. If we're going to reach out our hand to Jesus or not, I guess.
Tom, it's so encouraging that when they cried out, Jesus was there immediately.
Yeah. Jesus, every account says immediately he saved Peter. So when we cry out, again, we've talked before about this concept of prayer, of crying out, that they cried out to Jesus, Lord, save me, and he reached out his hand to Peter and saved him, and also rescued everyone in the boat as such from the storm. But when we cry out, if and when we cry out, Jesus is there to reach out and save us. So one other thing I had, y'all have done a great job on these, is the last one I think is we have to expect storms in our lives. The apostles faced a storm. It was a test, a trial that Jesus had for them to test their faith. We should expect tests and trials in our life to test our faith as well. And when we're going through those, again, as we said earlier, the response should be for us to look up, not look around, for us to look at the solution, Jesus, and not to look at the problem. Okay? All right, good. We're 3 minutes early. What about that? So, all right, here's, what? It's a miracle. Yeah, who said that? Who said that? All right, here's the plan. Next week, we're going to do, we've got just a little bit left of this segment in Mark, the first 23 verses of Mark. It's probably going to take us the next couple of weeks to get through that. The second of those 2 weeks is Easter, if I got my calendar straight in my head. Is that right? I think that's right. That's Easter. And then after that, we go back to Genesis for a while in Genesis, studying Abraham's life. So we'll be in Genesis for quite a while after that. So that's the plan. Now we are down to 2 minutes. So you got 2 minutes. So thank you for being here.
Everybody get my email, or Tom and I.